Hello and welcome to another episode of OT Investigates. In today's episode, we're looking at the third episode in the series I've been doing on the Last Alliance sourcebook I've designed. In today's episode, we're going to look at the next two legendary legions, the final two legendary legions for the good side of the armies. So, the first one we're looking at, should be up on your screens for you now, is the Siege of Barad. So this happens just after the last one we went through, which was the host at Daggerlad. Basically, this is after the Greenwood and the Lorien forces have been wiped out, and they're now closing in on Barad itself, and it's just in sort of the lightish blue, the Rivendell host, the dark blue, the Numenor host, and then in the red, debate whether they were there or not, but I've put them in because I want to put them in, is the sort of host from Khazad-dûm. Again, similar compositions to last time. I think everything's exactly the same. The only difference is this time I've said no horses. This is mainly a choice of balance more than anything else. I don't think there's anything particularly themey to suggest there were or weren't horses there, but basically I've just said there aren't horses there. Maybe means that this army isn't as OP as it otherwise would be, because basically, as I mentioned last time, I'm taking a list that is already quite good and arguably giving it a couple of buffs for the sake of theme. So, for army composition, you have to take one of Gil-galad or Elendil, so a bit more specific than last time, but yeah, one of Gil-galad or Elendil. You have to have at least one Numenor warband with at least 12 models in, and at least one Rivendell warband with at least 12 models in, and you can choose to put in one Khazad-dûm warband. Less important, arguably. Rules. So, these are the rules that would be adding on to the Last Alliance. Similar to the last one, you probably spot, well, these two rules with different faction keywords in the same combat, they re-roll to wound rolls of 1. Same as the last rule. This might be sort of hopefully quite easy to achieve with, maybe that Numenor front line and the Elf Warrior back line or whatever you want to do. Even you could put a Khazad-dûm front line with the Iron Guard or something and a Rivendell back line or something. Fight 5-3 attacks. Wouldn't be too bad. Heroes of the Hour. While in combat, hero models count as banners for warrior models. This is probably the most significant buff, arguably, in here. It basically allows, as it says here, your heroes to get in there, get chopping up, and then they count as banner for those warrior models. Seemed relevant because there were lots of very thematic heroes there, very powerful heroes who would be very inspiring to those warriors around them. Vengeful Fury. If the leader of this army is slain, hero models will basically get a bonus against the model that killed it. This is mainly just like if you're fighting against a very powerful hero like in Sauron or something, and yeah, that would give you a bonus to try and get revenge as happened in the story. This one is the one that came to me sort of finally, and I think it kind of works. For anybody who remembers our Rings of Power series, it's a bit similar to Lifelong Bond, which Honor shot to pieces, but I've nerfed it down a bit and tried to be a bit more explicit about what I wanted. Once per turn, a hero model, if they're trapped, may use a single Might, Will, Fate, or from another friendly hero within 6 if it's their own. This can only be used by one hero per turn. So basically it means that once per turn, if a hero is in a very disparate situation, they can claim help from another hero near them. Not quite sure how it works thematically, but yeah, and it would let them use a point of whatever that is to keep them alive. Now, I'm a little bit wary because this lets, the 1 fate heroes gain additional fate. I think it would be okay, but it might be the case that it ends up being a bit OP. Also, if they are trapped and they're using fate, probably not a great sign, so maybe it is balanced in that sense and that it may not end up making much of a difference. Next one, and this is the final good one, and it was probably one that I think most people expected to be in here. It's the disaster at Gladden Fields. So this is after Isildur's won, everything's kind of settling down. He's riding back north, I think up to Arnor, and he's ambushed by a pack of orcs as they're going along a river. This is the main reason, actually, why I created his sons to go with him, is to actually represent this specific scenario here. I think they definitely have a place in a normal Numenor list, but this was the main reason that I made them, is I wanted this nice sort of themey scenario to exist. Isildur with the Elendil Meal crown. I'll come on to what that is in a second, but basically it was a crown, I think, worn by the King of Gondor, and yeah, represents authority and has some special rules you'll see in a second. He has a horse, he can take a horse, he can take shield, and he can take the 1 ring. That sounds free. His 3 sons are there, you can choose to take them. No captains, Numenor warriors and Numenor guards. Essentially, in Tolkien's account, this was quite a small force that was riding with him, so I figured it would kind of only be his personal guard and his sons who were there, maybe no other sort of other captains and things like that. It would just be those guys riding along with him. Army composition, the only rule is you have to take Isildur, must be your army's leaders. Figure that makes sense. Isildur very pivotal to what happened at Gladden Fields, and I figure if you're not taking him, why are you taking the Legion? Rules. This is the only time you hear about the dreaded steel bows. Basically, supposedly Numenor had these more powerful bows that the orcs were afraid of, and this is mentioned in the account. But you can only take up to 25% bows, however you may reroll to wound rolls when shooting. This is a kind of comes out of nowhere because there's no other sort of mention of Numenor having great shooting in the game, but it is mentioned in the account, so I figured it'd be nice to put in here, and it kind of gives you a sort of maybe different way of running shooting with a few fewer bows, but hitting harder when they do shoot. Ambushed, and I think this one actually kind of works quite thematically quite well. The army automatically lose priority on the first turn of the game. Basically, they were surprised by a big pack of orcs and overwhelmed. So, yeah, that's hopefully quite thematic. And actually, in game, arguably a slight buff sometimes, especially in those early turns. You sometimes don't want priority to kind of force your opponent to maneuver into you. So, arguably a bit of a buff for the army. Broken Spirit. Whenever Isildur makes a Sauron's will roll, he has to do so on 2 dice and use the lowest result. Essentially, it mentions in the account at Gladden Fields that Isildur's sort of spirit had really been broken at this point, and he really was very, very reluctant to put on the ring. In fact, it took his son Elender quite a while of like literally begging him to leave the battle for him to put it on, and as you saw in the film and in the book, eventually betrayed him, and he was shot by the orcs. The Elendilmere crown, this is mentioned again in the account. Basically, it says as soon as Isildur puts on the ring, it glows with a bright white light, and orcs sort of fell away before him. So I figured it was quite themey to make it cause terror, and a bit like with Blinding Light, range attacks only hit the wearer on a 6+. So a bit of a buff to Isildur, but it would mainly be sort of quite a small themey list, focusing on, getting value from those quite powerful heroes and those nice bows that will get a bit of a buff, even if you're only taking a couple of them. Cool. Well, hopefully those make sense. As I say, I'm having to reach for a few of these because there isn't a huge amount written in a lot of the sort of hard canon about them. A lot of this is from Unfinished Tales, so hopefully these all make sense. Again, if you do have anything to add, anything that you think you would have put in instead, absolutely drop them in the comments below. I'm looking forward to reading those. And yeah, see you for the next one.